Maya Williams stood in the rain, her night shift jacket soaked and her grocery bag torn. The small brick house behind her was hers now, inherited from her Aunt Lillian. Yet Officer Daniel Reeves questioned her with condescension and veiled threats. The neighbors watched silently, conditioned by years of Harold Whitmore's control and Reeves's authority. Harold arrived, coffee in hand, observing the humiliation she endured without intervention. Reeves destroyed her deed papers, flung them at her face, and ordered her hands up. Harold, under the guise of concern, sent muddy water and scalding coffee over her. Maya's face burned, her hand stung, and the audience of neighbors remained still, unsure whether fear or compliance kept them silent. For a moment, the world felt designed to crush her dignity. But Maya allowed herself 10 seconds. 10 seconds to acknowledge the pain, the injustice, the exposure, and then she focused on her mission. She cleaned her wounds, retrieved the hidden laptop and secure devices from Aunt Lillian's house, and began documenting the sequence of threats, abuses, and illegal actions. Every insult, every intentional harm, every orchestrated fine was captured with precision. Maya contacted Elias Monroe, her supervisor, who guided her to secure all evidence, ensure backups, and start building a case that exposed the corruption surrounding Harold Whitmore, Officer Reeves, and the HOA's selective enforcement. Despite burns and bruises, she methodically traced every thread, collecting letters, audio recordings, photographs, and witness statements. She confirmed patterns of intimidation, extortion, and racial prejudice, carefully noting each escalation. As night fell, Maya prepared the federal evidence package. Encrypted drives, Aunt Lillian's documents, witness statements, and her own declaration. Each item represented a calculated step toward accountability, carefully recorded to survive manipulation and destruction. She navigated storage facilities, courthouses, and surveillance feeds, each movement precise and deliberate, even as her injuries reminded her of the human cost. By dawn, she had built a secure chain of evidence, fully exposing the mechanisms Whitmore and Reeves used to suppress her rightful claim. Each photograph, file, and recording was uploaded, time-stamped, and verified. Maya had endured humiliation, pain, and isolation, but the foundation of truth was now unshakable. The house, the record, and her aunt's legacy were safe. She stepped outside to a neighborhood still unaware of the justice that had quietly taken root. The lesson was clear. Courage, diligence, and evidence could dismantle carefully constructed power. Despite the scars on her hand and face, Maya stood resilient, ready to confront the next challenge. The struggle had begun in the wet driveway, but it would end with accountability, visibility, and the acknowledgement that truth could not be permanently suppressed. Her first steps into action were not for recognition, but to ensure that history would remember what had happened and what she had endured. Turning the weight of abuse into the foundation for justice. Maya reviewed the first HOA notice from the safety of her kitchen, her burned hand flexing slowly beneath the gauze. The document detailed complaints about her presence, the condition of her property, and the supposed disruption she caused. She photographed the notice, uploaded it into the federal case file, and began tracing the timeline of events, noting the intersection of Harold Whitmore's influence, Officer Reeves' actions, and the HOA's selective enforcement. Each entry reinforced the pattern: intimidation, fines, and civil threats used to force compliance. She reviewed recordings from the initial confrontation, the lunch event, and the storage unit surveillance. Reeves and Whitmore's words were deliberate, each action calculated to instill fear. She carefully catalogued evidence of the destruction of her deed papers, the pouring of hot coffee, the mud, and the threats, all with timestamps and corroborating witness observations. Despite the physical pain, Maya stayed methodical. She cross-referenced her aunt's HOA complaints from years prior, noting patterns of harassment, selective enforcement, and targeting of residents deemed undesirable. Ruth Bellamy's testimony confirmed that Harold had attempted to purchase the house multiple times, hinting at a motive beyond racial exclusion. Control over land and access roads. Every detail built the case for federal investigation. Maya planned her next steps carefully. She would attend the luncheon at Ashford Pines to document Harold's behavior publicly, capturing every word and every action. She coordinated with Elias Monroe, who prepared the team for backup and ensured the chain of evidence would remain unbroken. Maya understood the stakes. One misstep could allow Harold to manipulate perception, rewrite the narrative, and erase her legally and socially. The night before, she reviewed the map of the access road behind her aunt's property, understanding why Harold pursued the house so relentlessly. Her research confirmed the strategic importance, the hidden patterns, and the potential financial gains tied to forcing her out. In her kitchen, she rehearsed mentally, stay calm, document everything, preserve evidence, and avoid confrontation. Every visitor, every neighbor, every officer could be an extension of Harold's influence. The preparation was as critical as the physical evidence she had gathered. By the early morning, Maya had mapped a clear route, from her house to the storage facility, back to the diner for the meet with Elias, then to Ashford Pines. Timing, positioning, and discretion would ensure maximum documentation while minimizing risk. Maya took a deep breath, acknowledging the fatigue in her body, but embracing the clarity in her mind. The files, the photographs, the audio, all were pieces of the puzzle she would use to dismantle the orchestrated power Harold wielded. Pain and exhaustion were constants, but so was her resolve. Every deliberate action of harassment and control by Reeves and Whitmore had been recorded, time-stamped, and analyzed. The federal case now had a strong foundation. But she could not rest until the physical evidence was secured and transferred. She reviewed her plan: record the luncheon, attend the meeting, secure digital files from storage, and coordinate with Elias for backup if needed. Each move was deliberate, precise, and calculated. Maya understood the psychological landscape. Harold relied on perception, intimidation, and the silence of compliant neighbors. She would disrupt that, exposing the machinery of control with facts, evidence, and witness corroboration. The day began with cold air, damp streets, and a clear strategy: observe, document, record, and survive. Maya Williams, scarred but unbroken, prepared to step into a public space designed for power to see her as nothing. And instead, she would ensure the truth was undeniable. Maya arrived at Ashford Pines Country Club for the luncheon, her bandaged hand tucked beneath her coat. The room was filled with wealthy residents, impeccably dressed, discussing investments and social influence. Harold Whitmore stood near a framed map of Maple Ridge Estates, his presence commanding attention. Maya took her seat at the far table, observing the flow of the event, noting who entered and left, who whispered and who maintained composure. She activated her recorder, capturing the subtleties of each interaction: Harold speaking about community preservation, Officer Reeves entering in plain clothes, and the meticulous orchestration of appearances designed to intimidate. Her eyes moved continuously, cataloging every gesture, expression, and comment. Harold's remarks about property standards and protection of values were coded language. Every carefully chosen word carried an implicit threat. Reeves's presence reinforced the power dynamic, subtly reminding attendees who enforced the rules. Maya silently analyzed the social architecture of the room, identifying allies and observers, noting who seemed uneasy and who supported Whitmore's narrative. She connected the dots between past threats, fines, and property pressures, recognizing the pattern of coercion and influence that had plagued her and her aunt. Throughout the luncheon, she remained outwardly compliant, but internally vigilant, making detailed notes on her recorder and noting the timings of interactions for future cross-verification. Each photograph, audio snippet, and observation became evidence, reinforcing the timeline of intimidation, threats, and potential illegal activity. Maya reviewed Aunt Lillian's documents and Ruth Bellamy's key as backup references, ensuring her understanding of property rights, historical context, and potential legal leverage. Every exchange at the luncheon confirmed the depth of Whitmore's reach: strategic positioning of associates, selective enforcement of rules, and orchestration of fear. Maya carefully catalogued the audience reactions, officer placements, and the strategic placement of key figures, preserving the visual and auditory record. As dessert concluded, she confirmed her data capture, noting that each movement, statement, and glance aligned with the pattern she had been documenting for months. With the luncheon complete, Maya prepared to return to the storage unit and secure digital evidence. understanding that the consolidation of physical and digital documentation would be crucial for federal intervention. Her methodical preparation ensured that every step taken was recorded, time-stamped, and verifiable, solidifying the chain of evidence against Whitmore and Reeves. Pain from her injuries was present, but focus and determination overrode distraction. Maya left the club with a clear understanding of the power structures, the threats, and the steps needed to secure justice for herself, her aunt's legacy, and the Maple Ridge community. After leaving Ashford Pines, Maya returned to the storage facility to retrieve the binder and verify all digital files were intact. Her burned hand throbbed with every movement, but she remained steady, knowing each detail mattered for the federal case. She checked the timestamps on the recordings, ensuring continuity from the initial confrontation, the luncheon, and the storage unit. Elias Monroe communicated through her earpiece, confirming real-time backup and monitoring potential interference. Maya noted movements around the storage facility, vehicles passing slowly, and the subtle positioning of individuals who might have been Whitmore's associates. Every observation was logged meticulously. Inside, she organized the binder, ensuring each document, from Aunt Lillian's HOA complaints to Ruth Bellamy's notes, was correctly catalogued and encrypted. The files detailed Whitmore's attempts to acquire her aunt's property, the patterns of intimidation, and the financial incentives for coercion. With everything secured, Maya returned to her car, checking her surroundings before driving back to Maple Ridge. The quiet streets belied the tension that permeated the neighborhood. Each closed door and curtained window hinted at compliance or fear. Back home, she reviewed the HOA notices, cross-referencing them with her recordings and Aunt Lillian's historical files. Every mention of fines, code enforcement, and community concern formed a clear pattern of pressure designed to force her out. Maya updated her case file with new observations, highlighting the intentional misrepresentation by Reeves and Whitmore. She contacted Elias to plan the next steps, ensuring that federal authorities had access to all evidence, preparing for potential confrontations, and verifying that no critical data could be destroyed. As night fell, she examined the access roadmaps, identifying the strategic importance of her aunt's property in Whitmore's development plans. She confirmed her understanding with Elias, noting every parcel, entry point, and potential vulnerability. Maya prepared for the next day, the HOA hearing, the documentation review, and continued surveillance. Each action, each precaution was deliberate. She understood that her injuries, while painful, were secondary to preserving the integrity of the case. She rested briefly, aware that her resilience and meticulous documentation were the strongest tools she possessed. The neighborhood appeared calm, but Maya knew the quiet was temporary. The struggle for justice was ongoing, and every detail she captured brought her closer to accountability. By the early morning, Maya had confirmed all files were secure, backups completed, and all evidence ready for federal intake. Her preparation ensured that the next confrontation, whether in court or before federal authorities, would be supported by irrefutable documentation. Despite exhaustion and lingering pain, Maya's resolve hardened. Every observation, recording, and document now served a singular purpose: to dismantle the orchestrated power of Whitmore and Reeves, to protect her property, and to secure justice for the years of intimidation and abuse endured by her and her aunt. Maya planned her next move carefully, knowing that the federal case would rely not just on evidence, but on timing and strategic exposure. She returned to Maple Ridge, noting the positions of neighbors, vehicles, motorcycles, and any unusual activity. Her first stop was Aunt Lillian's house, where she reviewed the digital and physical evidence once more, ensuring each file, audio recording, and document was catalogued and backed up. Elias confirmed through secure channels that the chain of custody was intact, emphasizing the importance of maintaining strict control over the files. Maya's hands, bandaged and sore, moved deliberately as she prepared encrypted drives and secondary storage units, ready to transport them if necessary. She revisited the HOA notices, cross-referencing dates and fines with her recordings and Aunt Lillian's prior complaints, revealing a consistent pattern of intimidation and selective enforcement. Each analysis strengthened her understanding of Whitmore's motives: controlling property access, manipulating the narrative, and suppressing dissent. By late afternoon, Maya had prepared a comprehensive report, integrating timelines, maps, witness statements, and digital evidence. She reviewed the strategic access points behind her aunt's property, confirming the significance of each parcel in Whitmore's plans. Communication with Elias continued, coordinating federal observation and contingency plans. Maya remained acutely aware of her injuries, but the meticulous organization of evidence and preparation of the case gave her focus and purpose. She analyzed potential courtroom scenarios, anticipating counterarguments from Whitmore's attorneys and the possible misuse of local authority. By evening, the preparation was complete. Digital files secured, physical evidence catalogued, and observation points noted. Maya understood the importance of patience, precision, and strategic timing. The quiet of Maple Ridge that night was deceptive. Each closed window and silent street masked the ongoing observation and control exerted by Whitmore. Maya rested briefly, acknowledging fatigue while remaining mentally vigilant. Every action taken reinforced her capacity to expose the orchestrated pattern of coercion, intimidation, and financial manipulation designed to force her from her rightful home. Her strategy was now clear: document, verify, secure, and expose. She was ready for the coming confrontations, aware that the battle for justice would continue to test her resilience, intellect, and courage. By the early hours, Maya confirmed the integrity of all files, ensuring that even if local actors attempted interference, federal oversight could maintain the evidence's validity. Each step reinforced the foundation of accountability she had meticulously constructed, transforming humiliation and pain into instruments of justice. The next morning, Maya returned to Maple Ridge, her hands carefully bandaged, her mind fully occupied with the federal case. She observed the neighborhood silently, noting which houses had activity and which remained still. The HOA office, the familiar porches, the trimmed hedges, all were elements in the broader strategy she was documenting. Every action, from Harold Whitmore's gestures to Officer Reeves' placement in public view, was recorded mentally and digitally. She reviewed the binder once more, confirming Aunt Lillian's property documents, the HOA complaints, Ruth Bellamy's testimony, and previous recordings. Elias contacted her, verifying that all secure transmissions had been received and that backups were intact. The plan for the upcoming HOA hearing was clear. Maya would attend, capture every detail, and preserve federal oversight without revealing the entirety of her evidence prematurely. She noted the timing of previous intimidation tactics and anticipated the orchestration Whitmore might attempt to influence the narrative, including the selective placement of witnesses and strategic interruptions. The meticulous preparation involved multiple steps: confirming chain of custody, verifying timestamps, and documenting potential witnesses outside the hearing room. Maya rehearsed mental responses, ensuring she could counter misinformation without overexposing her federal evidence. As the morning progressed, she moved quietly through her aunt's property, observing the access road, noting obstructions, and capturing photographs of potential manipulation points. Each step added to the comprehensive dossier Elias would later submit to federal authorities. By mid-afternoon, Maya had completed a final review, ensuring that all evidence, physical, digital, and observational, was prepared for secure presentation. She rested briefly, acknowledging her physical limitations while maintaining mental focus. The stage was set for confrontation, yet the integrity of her documentation guaranteed that no act of intimidation, manipulation, or falsification could go unchallenged. Maya Williams, resilient and strategic, had transformed her injuries and humiliation into a disciplined approach to justice, ready to confront the systemic coercion that sought to erase her aunt's legacy and her rightful place in Maple Ridge. Maya prepared for the HOA hearing with the precision of a seasoned investigator. She reviewed all gathered evidence: Aunt Lillian's property records, prior HOA complaints, witness statements, and recordings of Officer Reeves and Harold Whitmore. Her right hand still throbbed beneath the bandage, a constant reminder of the physical and psychological stakes. As she arrived at the community hall, she noted neighbors' reactions, some curious, others apprehensive, each silently reflecting the influence Whitmore wielded. She took her seat with Elias monitoring nearby, her recorder capturing every word, every pause, every subtle shift in expression. Harold began the session, citing concerns about property maintenance, community standards, and the purported disruption caused by Maya. Reeves hovered at the side, reinforcing the narrative through his presence. Maya allowed the accusations to unfold, keeping a calm exterior while mentally cross-referencing each claim against the documented evidence. When she finally spoke, she recounted the timeline of intimidation, the destroyed deed papers, the coffee, the mud, the threats, and the calculated fines. She presented the witnesses' corroborations, pointing out inconsistencies in Whitmore's statements and exposure of his manipulation of the HOA and police involvement. The room became tense. Harold's carefully curated facade faltered as the weight of verified evidence pressed against it. Maya outlined the broader pattern: coercion to force property sales, selective enforcement, and the orchestration of fear to maintain control. Each point was precise, supported by time-stamped recordings and documented observations. Federal oversight, represented by Elias, reinforced her position, ensuring the audience recognized the credibility of her claims. By the session's conclusion, the narrative had shifted. The residents, previously compliant or passive, began to perceive the extent of Whitmore's orchestration. Maya's methodical presentation had exposed not just a single act of intimidation, but a systemic pattern of abuse of authority and influence. Her injuries and meticulous preparation underscored the human cost and the courage required to confront entrenched power. As she left the hall, she understood that the foundation for federal intervention was solid. The next steps would involve securing digital evidence from Whitmore's private systems, ensuring the integrity of files, and coordinating with Elias to maintain oversight while preventing any further manipulation or destruction. Maya Williams, resilient and focused, had turned personal suffering into a structured campaign for accountability, ensuring that truth and justice could no longer be suppressed within Maple Ridge. Maya returned home after the HOA hearing, her mind still racing from the intensity of the confrontation. She laid out the binder, recordings, and encrypted drives, reviewing each item to confirm all evidence was intact. Elias contacted her, coordinating the next stage, accessing Whitmore's private server vault. Maya mapped the logistics, noting security, access points, and potential surveillance. Her burned hand ached, but her determination sharpened. That night, she prepared for the operation, checking her recording equipment, verifying her communications with Elias, and planning escape routes. Early morning, she returned to Maple Ridge, monitoring Whitmore's residence for unusual activity. She noted officer placements, vehicles, and pedestrian movement, ensuring she would not be interrupted. When she accessed the back entrance described in Lillian's notes, she moved with caution, avoiding unnecessary contact. Inside the house, the scent of lemon polish and leather filled the air, a stark contrast to the tension. Maya approached the hidden panel, using the biometric override as previously practiced. Pain shot through her hand as she activated the retinal scanner, but she maintained pressure until the system accepted her credentials. The steel door unlocked, revealing the server vault, its humming towers glowing blue and white. She inserted the encrypted drive, initiating immediate transfer to the Department of Justice. Sparks flew as she worked, pain lancing up her arm, but the data streamed successfully. Maya monitored the transfer, noting timestamps, file integrity, and sequence. Steps above indicated someone entering the house, likely a security or associate, but the emergency fire suppression system created cover. She maneuvered behind the server racks, blocking the intruders and maintaining control of the transfer. Seconds ticked by as she completed the 100% transfer. With the files secured and evidence safe, she exited just as federal agents arrived, intercepting the intruders. Maya, exhausted and injured, handed over the encrypted drives and documentation to Elias, confirming the full chain of evidence. Her calculated risk had preserved irreplaceable data, ensuring Whitmore and Reeves could no longer manipulate, destroy, or suppress the truth. Maya had transformed personal suffering, meticulous observation, and methodical execution into a decisive victory for justice, securing the federal case that would dismantle Whitmore's network of intimidation and corruption. With the server transfer complete, Maya returned to Maple Ridge, her hands still bandaged, her body sore, but her focus unbroken. She reviewed the evidence package once more, ensuring every document, photograph, and recording had been properly catalogued for federal intake. Harold Whitmore's manipulation of the HOA, Officer Reeves's intimidation, and the coercion patterns were all fully documented, and Maya felt the weight of months of investigation consolidated into irrefutable evidence. That afternoon, she coordinated with Elias to monitor Whitmore's ongoing activities, noting visitor patterns and vehicle movements. Each observation confirmed the reach of his influence. Neighbors subtly enforcing silence, associates reinforcing his narrative, and sporadic law enforcement presence signaling coordination. Maya prepared for the upcoming federal hearing, rehearsing her statements, anticipating objections, and ensuring the chronological integrity of every incident. She catalogued additional witness statements, including those from Ruth Bellamy and Arthur Lane, who had provided crucial observations corroborating her prior recordings. By evening, she had created a detailed timeline of events spanning from her first confrontation with Reeves to the latest HOA activities, cross-referenced against property records, payments, and communications involving Whitmore and Tolbert. The precision of her documentation allowed her to identify vulnerabilities in Whitmore's operations, providing federal authorities with actionable insights. Maya's approach was methodical: protect the evidence, anticipate obstruction, preserve the narrative, and ensure continuity of observation. The neighborhood, outwardly calm, hid the tension of ongoing scrutiny. Every movement she noted, every pattern she recorded, reinforced the scope of Whitmore's influence and the necessity of meticulous evidence management. Exhausted but vigilant, Maya prepared for the next day's federal briefing, ensuring that all secure communications were encrypted, all recordings verified, and every detail ready for presentation. The physical and emotional toll of the past weeks was present, but her strategic focus remained undeterred. Each calculated action, from documenting threats to securing digital evidence, brought her closer to exposing the network of coercion, intimidation, and corruption, reinforcing her position not merely as a resident asserting property rights, but as a guardian of justice ready to confront systemic abuse. Maya spent the night reviewing every recording and note, preparing for the federal review. Each interaction with Whitmore and Reeves was catalogued with timestamps, witness statements, and cross-references to property records. She checked the integrity of the encrypted drives, ensuring the evidence could withstand scrutiny and manipulation attempts. By early morning, she had confirmed the entire chain of custody and reviewed Aunt Lillian's notes and Ruth Bellamy's corroboration one last time. Maya planned her approach for the federal session, carefully rehearsing how to present the sequence of events without exposing vulnerabilities or risking interference. She observed Maple Ridge, noting the silent streets, the curtained windows, and the subtle movements of residents influenced by Whitmore. Each element was evidence in itself, reflecting the climate of fear and control. Maya anticipated the federal team's arrival, verifying communications and coordinating backup with Elias. She prepared for confrontations, ensuring that any attempt by Whitmore, Reeves, or the HOA to interfere would be documented in real time. Her physical pain from burns and bruises was managed but never ignored. It reinforced her resolve rather than hindered it. As the morning progressed, Maya confirmed all secure transmissions, backups, and observer placements. She had mapped every room, entrance, and potential observation point, ensuring that no detail could be overlooked. Maya's preparation demonstrated a calculated understanding of the intersection between legal authority, social influence, and the physical realities of her environment. By the time the federal agents arrived, she was ready, the evidence fully organized, the timeline meticulously verified, and every witness statement cross-checked. Maya had transformed weeks of intimidation, harassment, and abuse into a coherent, undeniable narrative supported by irrefutable documentation. The stage was set for the federal intervention, and the integrity of the case rested on her preparation, vigilance, and resilience. The federal agents arrived at Maple Ridge Estates as planned, and Maya guided them through the neighborhood, highlighting key locations, HOA offices, and observed interactions. Every step was carefully coordinated, her bandaged hands moved methodically, ensuring secure handling of the evidence she had collected. Maya briefed Elias and the team on the history of harassment, intimidation, and selective enforcement, confirming each instance with timestamps and recordings. She pointed out Officer Reeves's previous actions, the destroyed deed papers, the hot coffee incident, and Whitmore's orchestration of fines and HOA pressures. Each element built the case for systemic abuse and coordinated obstruction of justice. The agents documented every observation, noting how Whitmore's influence extended into neighborhood compliance and law enforcement interactions. Maya maintained a clear mental timeline, aligning the physical evidence, digital recordings, and witness statements with known legal precedents and property rights. By mid-morning, the federal team had verified the integrity of all data and prepared for the initial briefing with prosecutors. Maya outlined potential witnesses, highlighting Ruth Bellamy, Arthur Lane, and others whose statements corroborated her recordings. She reviewed the access road maps, emphasizing the strategic importance of her aunt's property in Whitmore's development plans. Throughout the day, she observed Maple Ridge from multiple vantage points, ensuring that any attempt to interfere with evidence or witnesses would be recorded. Maya's meticulous attention to detail ensured that the federal agents could construct a robust legal framework, directly linking Whitmore and Reeves to coercion, extortion, and manipulation. By evening, the neighborhood appeared quiet, but Maya understood that the operational exposure of Whitmore's network had begun. Each observation, recording, and verified document had transformed months of intimidation into actionable evidence. She rested briefly, aware of physical pain, but fortified by the certainty that the federal intervention would dismantle the systemic abuse she had endured and documented. Maya had become both observer and participant, orchestrating a path for accountability while ensuring the safety and integrity of the case. Maya returned home after the federal verification, her hands still bandaged, her body sore, but her resolve unwavering. She reviewed the complete timeline of events, cross-referencing HOA notices, property records, and recordings from the luncheon and storage unit operations. Each file was encrypted, each witness statement verified, and every observation meticulously documented. She coordinated with Elias Monroe, finalizing the strategy for presenting the federal case and ensuring that Whitmore and Reeves could not manipulate or destroy evidence. Maya analyzed the potential vulnerabilities in Whitmore's network, preparing countermeasures for any last-minute obfuscation. The neighborhood remained outwardly calm, but Maya knew that the observation and documentation of residents, security personnel, and law enforcement movements provided a full picture of influence and coercion. She confirmed the placement of surveillance and monitored electronic evidence streams, guaranteeing that every action Whitmore or Reeves took could be immediately cross-referenced against documented events. The mental toll of months of intimidation and harassment weighed on her, but Maya focused on the integrity and precision of her records, understanding that careful preparation would render future interference impossible. By nightfall, the federal agents had reviewed the evidence, validated the chronology, and prepared for the formal legal proceedings. Maya rested briefly, her fatigue offset by the clarity of the case she had constructed. Every interaction, every incident, and every document contributed to a comprehensive exposure of the abuse of authority and systemic coercion orchestrated by Whitmore and Reeves. Maya had transformed personal suffering into a disciplined pursuit of justice, ensuring that the truth could not be buried, ignored, or manipulated. Her meticulous planning guaranteed that the federal intervention would dismantle the network of intimidation and secure accountability for the long-standing patterns of abuse in Maple Ridge. The following morning, Maya prepared for the final stage of the federal intervention. She reviewed every file, audio recording, and witness statement, ensuring they were properly encrypted and catalogued. Her bandaged hands moved carefully over the evidence, mindful of lingering pain from previous injuries. She coordinated with Elias Monroe, who confirmed federal presence at key locations, ensuring that Whitmore and Reeves would be unable to interfere. Maya observed the neighborhood, noting subtle movements, potential observers, and any unusual activity that could indicate Whitmore's awareness of federal operations. She reviewed her aunt's property, the access road, and relevant parcels, confirming the strategic importance of each. Her meticulous attention ensured that each step would be captured, time-stamped, and verified. The upcoming federal hearing required flawless presentation. Every action by Whitmore and Reeves, every HOA intimidation tactic, and every documented violation would be available for scrutiny. Maya rehearsed her testimony, mentally aligning timelines, digital evidence, and witness statements. By late morning, she was ready to move, fully aware of the physical and psychological demands ahead. Her strategy was deliberate, expose patterns of coercion, present irrefutable evidence, and ensure the integrity of federal proceedings. Each observation, each piece of evidence, and each procedural step reinforced the framework for accountability. Maya's preparation was comprehensive. She had transformed months of intimidation, harassment, and abuse into a precise, actionable record. Her resilience and strategic foresight ensured that the forthcoming legal actions would dismantle Whitmore and Reeves's orchestrated network, safeguarding both her aunt's legacy and the principles of justice within Maple Ridge. Maya arrived at the federal hearing, her bandaged hands a visible reminder of the risk she had taken. She presented her evidence systematically, beginning with the timeline of intimidation, the destruction of her deed papers, and the coordinated actions of Whitmore and Reeves. Witness statements, recordings, and documentation of HOA and law enforcement involvement were displayed, establishing a clear pattern of coercion and obstruction. Federal agents corroborated her submissions, ensuring the court understood the authenticity and chain of custody of every piece of evidence. Maya explained the strategic importance of her aunt's property and how Whitmore had leveraged influence to pressure her into relinquishing it. The courtroom became a stage where systemic abuse, previously invisible, was now fully exposed. Harold Whitmore and Officer Reeves were unable to dispute the meticulously documented timeline, the corroborated witnesses, and the recorded interactions. The judge reviewed each submission carefully, recognizing the scope and severity of the coordinated actions against Maya. Her methodical presentation left no room for misrepresentation, establishing accountability and ensuring the integrity of federal review. Residents who had once observed silently now understood the true extent of manipulation, fear, and abuse that had occurred. Maya's calm, detailed, and precise delivery demonstrated both the courage and intelligence required to confront entrenched power. By the conclusion of the hearing, the federal intervention had secured the necessary oversight, preserving the integrity of Aunt Lillian's property, documenting abuses, and setting the stage for the legal accountability of Whitmore and Reeves. Maya exited the courtroom with the quiet satisfaction of having transformed months of intimidation and physical pain into a strategic and successful act of justice. Each step, each record, each observation had contributed to an irreversible exposure of corruption, ensuring that truth prevailed over fear, and justice could no longer be suppressed within Maple Ridge. In the weeks following the federal hearing, Maya focused on consolidation and restitution. She returned to Maple Ridge, observing the community now aware that accountability had arrived. Harold Whitmore faced federal oversight. Officer Reeves's influence waned as his actions were documented and challenged. Maya ensured that each piece of evidence, from Aunt Lillian's files to her own recordings, was preserved for the restitution process, tracking the status of fines, HOA enforcement, and community compliance. Residents began to act differently, their prior silence replaced with cautious recognition of the change in authority. Maya met with Ruth Bellamy and Arthur Lane to confirm witness statements and discuss the ongoing protection of the neighborhood's residents. Each interaction strengthened the legal case and helped re-establish a sense of fairness and security within the community. Over time, restitution for affected families began, and forced sales were reviewed, reversing some of the damage Whitmore had orchestrated. Maya's hand, once burned and scarred, symbolized resilience and persistence, as she carefully documented ongoing compliance and community rehabilitation. She reflected on the months of meticulous work, the personal cost, and the enduring impact of standing firm against abuse of power. The house remained, Aunt Lillian's legacy preserved, and Maya's name firmly associated with justice, courage, and methodical action. Outside, Maple Ridge adjusted to the new reality. Oversight, accountability, and transparency reshaped the neighborhood's culture. As Maya walked the familiar streets, she acknowledged the lessons learned. Truth requires vigilance, courage often comes at personal cost, and justice, though delayed, can be achieved through determination and strategic persistence. She paused at the community hall, now displaying the public garden named after her aunt, noting the open curtains and the quiet nods of acknowledgement from residents. The fight had been long, the scars visible, but the foundation of justice had been firmly established. Maya looked at her hands, the evidence, and the neighborhood, and whispered to herself, "We kept it. The house, the record, the truth. She turned, ready to move forward. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this video.